In today's webinar, we'll be discussing strike on nickel and certain silver coins. On certain mint state silver and nickel coins, recognition is made of certain portions of the design that contain all the original detail that was engraved into the dies. As the dies wear, often these portions of the design become flat and are never struck into the coin. Weak striking pressure can also contribute to this poor strike. So we currently recognize 4 strike designations in 5 series. Full steps for Jefferson Nickels, full bands for Mercury Dimes, and more recently Roosevelt Dimes, full heads on Standing Liberty quarters, both Type 1 and Type 2, and finally full bell lines on Franklin halves. So today we'll be discussing strike on Jefferson Nickels, Mercury Dimes, and Roosevelt Dimes. Jefferson Nickels, we look at the steps on the reverse of Monticello. A Jefferson nickel displaying at least 5 of the 6 steps at the base of Monticello is designated as having full steps, or FS as we abbreviate it. Any interruption, disturbance in these steps or lines, whether caused by contact, planchet problems, or weak strike, will result in the coin not being designated full strike. So let's take a look at some examples. This first one is well short of full steps, and you can see large portions of the step area are just flat. You really can't even hardly tell that there are steps there at all, so this coin wouldn't even be close. Now, more interestingly, here's an example that we consider just short of full steps, and the problem here is obviously a little bit of weakness in strike and blurring and blending on the lower steps, but also this cut mark sort of to the right of center that interrupts the steps. That would also be a disqualification for full steps. So this is a coin that's short of full steps. Now, let's take a look next at a full step example. Here is an example with full steps, and you can see the very bottom step is still not visible, but we do consider 5 of the 6 steps enough to qualify for full steps. You can see in the rest of the step area there's no major cuts or interruptions. And finally, we'll take a look at a coin that has complete full steps. This coin here, you can see clearly all 6 steps in their full detail. So this is all that you would ever expect on a full step nickel. Full bands on a Mercury Dime. A Mercury Dime that shows full separation on the horizontal bands on the center part of the phases on the reverse is designated full bands, or FB as we abbreviate it. Once again, like on the nickels, there can be no interruption in the trough of the bands due to strike, contact, planchet problems, or any other damage, whether mint caused or not. So let's take a look at 5 examples. This first one is very clearly a no bands coin. The bands are so blended or poorly struck that you really can't even see that there were 2 bands on the coin at one time. So this is obviously not even close. This next one is getting there now. This is a partial bands coin. You can clearly see the 2 bands. However, you do see areas in the middle where the bands are blended together and you don't have complete separation. So this coin is what we would call a partial bands coin, but we don't designate it as such. It's just another non-full bands coin. This third one falls just short of full bands, and as you can see, there's almost complete separation, except in the middle where there's a little bit of blending of the 2 bands. So this would just fall short. Now on the other side of the line is sort of a just made it full bands coin. Again, you can see the center part of the bands here. There's a little bit of weakness and sort of half blending, but there is separation. And as long as you can get that separation, this coin would barely qualify as full bands, but it would qualify. And finally, we'll take a look at a complete full bands coin. This one you can see there's a full trough between the 2 bands with no interruptions or weakness. And once again, this is a complete full split bands coin, and it's about as split as they get. More recently, I would say in the last 10 or 12 years, we began recognizing Roosevelt Dimes also that show full separation on the upper and lower horizontal bands on the torch on the back. So let's take a look at what some of these look like. This first example here is like the Mercury Dime, pretty much a no bands coin. The top band is quite blurry and the bottom band is almost invisible. So you can't really see any separation at all. In fact, on the lower band you can barely even tell there's a band there. So this coin is well short. Now this coin here is one we would call just short of full bands for a Roosevelt dime. You can see separation in the upper bands, but there's some weakness there. And the lower bands are a little bit chopped up with too many scratches and contact marks to really qualify. So this coin, even though you can see two bands, just due to the weakness up at the top and due to the marks at the bottom, we would consider this just short of full bands. And finally, here is one that would qualify as a full band Roosevelt dime. You can see the full separation of bands at the top and a full separation of the bands at the bottom. So next time we'll take a look at Standing Liberty quarters and full bell line Franklin halves. So until next time, take care.